Elon Musk just detonated a political earthquake inside the UK right-wing movement. Reform UK thought they were rising, until a billionaire stepped in and started backing their own rival. Now the entire vote is fracturing in real time, and nobody is in control anymore. This isn't just a by-election story. This is a full-blown power struggle over who owns the right-wing vote in Britain. Reform, breakaway parties, former insiders, all fighting for the same voters while the system starts to split down the middle. And when the vote splits, winners don't rise. They collapse from the inside. Farage is warning about it. Musk is accelerating it. And the timing couldn't be more dangerous. Because in politics, you don't need to lose support to lose everything. You just need to lose unity.
Phenomenal success in the various council elections and so on and so forth. And Elon originally supported basically Reform and Nigel, but now he called him weak sauce about various other things. So he's going over to Rupert Lowe, who I've met all these key individuals. There's another party as well called Advance UK, which was another former deputy of Reform, and that's somebody called Ben Habib. All of these people I've interviewed on the Andrew Eborn show at appropriate moments. And this is what's happening. Elon is the kingmaker, so they're very upset if he turns around and basically potentially splits the votes. And that's what Nigel Farage is trying to say. He's turning and saying, look, if you support one of these other parties and you don't support me, what you're going to do is effectively let Labour come in through the back door, because people turn around, if there are 4 or maybe even more so-called right-wing parties, what's going to happen? You're going to fragment that vote. And I put that all the time to the various politicians from the right on my show, because clearly if you're persuaded to vote in a particular way on the right-hand side of policies, if you like, and you've got a choice of at least 4 parties, you're going to split the vote. So he makes a good point. The interesting things, however, Danica, is that the statistics prove that that's not necessarily the case. There was this turquoise tidal wave, as I say, in the council elections, huge victory for Reform, but Restore in Great Yarmouth, they won every single one of their 10 seats. I've been talking to Rupert behind the scenes about a lot of this. He has big plans, so I reckon Nigel is quaking in his boots.
Well, look, it, I guess, remains to be seen, because obviously Reform did very well in those local elections that we saw a couple of weeks back. I'm curious to know how Rupert Lowe goes here, but you're right, it almost does splinter that vote. So I guess wait and see on this one. Look, we got to talk about the Royals now. This was huge news over the weekend. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is being investigated over potential suicides. We've also seen this one pop up. Police are also looking into an allegation that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor behaved inappropriately towards a woman at Royal Ascot. This was back in 2002. That's according to the Sunday Times. He denies all of these allegations. Andrew, look, it's getting worse and worse now for Mountbatten Windsor. How do you see this playing out? What more can you tell us about the investigation?
Well, I can tell you it's an absolute stain on the royal family. It's a seismic moment in royal history. The first time ever in 400 years that a royal was arrested. It was on Andrew's 66th birthday, interestingly. What's very interesting is, as you know, I've been talking around the world on more platforms than Paddington about this particular case, because there's some things that people sort of misunderstood. And basically what it is this misconduct in public office. Now, it's an extremely serious offence, and it carries with it basically a maximum of life imprisonment. But it's a very high threshold, because you have to first of all point out, well, he's in public office. So when he was working as a trade envoy, is it working on that sort of basis? There's then the accusation about how serious is it? What did he actually do? And the original allegation for the arrest was to do with sharing papers with Epstein. And at that stage, there was no sort of talk about the sexual side, even though all the various victims on the sexual side came forward, and Epstein's victim saying, oh, it's great, it's a good moment. That wasn't what the arrest was about at all. The Thames Valley Police, that's the relevant police force, have now come out and said, look, let's get some witnesses coming forward. We're appealing for anybody who might have any information, not just about the financial side, but also about the sexual side. And that's when it comes into play, because it's talking about misconduct in public office, which will include that sexual side. I should emphasize, obviously, that
And what we are witnessing here is not just a simple political endorsement, but the beginning of a much deeper fracture inside the UK's right-wing political landscape. Elon Musk backing a rival party to reform UK has instantly turned what should have been a local by-election story into a national political shockwave. Because this is no longer just about one candidate or one constituency. This is about influence, power, and control over the direction of an entire political movement. Reform UK was already positioning itself as a rising force after recent electoral gains, but now that momentum is being challenged from within its own ideological space. And that is exactly where the real danger begins. When a movement starts splitting into multiple rival groups, all claiming to represent the same voters, the outcome is almost always the same: vote dilution. And that is exactly what Nigel Farage and his camp have been warning about. Because even a small percentage shift away from a major party in a tight by-election can completely change the result. You don't need a collapse, you just need fragmentation. And that is enough to hand victory to your opponent without them even expanding their support base. But what makes this situation even more explosive is the presence of Elon Musk himself. Musk is not a traditional political figure, but his influence is undeniable. When he signals support, it doesn't just stay symbolic. It creates attention, media pressure, donor interest, and public curiosity. In simple terms, he changes the temperature of the entire political environment. And right now, that temperature is rising fast inside the reform ecosystem. What we are seeing is a shift from party politics to influence politics, where individuals outside the system are capable of reshaping internal dynamics. And that raises a serious question. If external billionaires can tilt attention and legitimacy between rival factions of the same ideological side, then who is actually controlling the direction of political movements? The voters or the influencers behind the scenes? At the same time, Reform UK is now facing a strategic nightmare. Instead of focusing all its energy on competing against Labour or the Conservatives, it is now forced to deal with breakaway groups, former members, and new rival parties emerging from its own political base. This is not just competition, this is internal erosion in real time. And history has shown us one clear pattern. When political movements split into multiple factions, they rarely grow stronger. They become divided, distracted, and vulnerable. And in that vacuum, opposition parties often benefit without changing their strategy at all. Meanwhile, the supporters of Musk's involvement argue that this is simply political diversification, that new voices deserve space, and that competition strengthens democracy. But critics see something very different. They see unpredictability, instability, and the increasing role of powerful individuals shaping political outcomes from the outside. And that brings us to the most uncomfortable question in all of this. Is this still just democracy playing out naturally? Or are we entering an era where political outcomes are being influenced not only by voters and parties, but also by global figures with massive financial and media power? Because whether people agree with it or not, one thing is becoming clear very quickly. This is no longer just a by-election story in the UK. This is turning into a wider battle over influence, control, and the future structure of right-wing politics itself. And in that battle, the real winner will not be decided by speeches or slogans alone, but by who manages to control attention, narrative, and fragmentation at the exact right moment.